Keith, the shot that Manny hit you with in the 5th round, how much damage did that do to your nose, and how was it for you to deal with that for the remainder of the fight?
It wasn't that bad. It just hit me in the right spot and created a leakage. At the end of the day, I had my nose bleeding and sparring a little bit. So I believe that he just placed it right on the button and reactivated something that I went through in training camp. And I just had to deal with it, you know. I remember when my nose was bleeding against Diego Chavez, and just, it didn't bother me too much. I just was focused and just trying to put some pressure on him, land some counters, but he was quite conservative and herky-jerky. And, you know, I started to do better later on in the fight. I really thought I was putting some pressure on him, but my numbers just weren't up to par to be victorious tonight.
You had things going your way, you got to the 10th round, that round was going well, and then he hit you with a body shot. How conclusive was that in terms of the fight and the round? Because it seemed like you did a pretty good job just to get out of that situation.
There was so much going, and I felt like I was grabbing some momentum back, and in that moment, you know, I knew it was going to be difficult to really get the judges back on my side for the remainder of the championship rounds. My coach Dan Birmingham said you got to win every round. I felt like I needed to possibly get a knockdown or get back. You know, I think I ended the 10th kind of back with some trades back to Manny. But, you know, I definitely was obviously hurt in that round. And, I mean, it was a close fight. You know, it really was. That's what boxing's all about. You just never know what's really going to happen. You know, obviously he was well prepared. He was in shape. I tried to push him to his limit, and he came out on top.
Andreas, Keith, question for you. You talked about the time off and, you know, the activity that Manny had. If you would have had another couple of fights, do you think that would have made a difference in this fight preparation just by being more active?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've seen champions in inactivity not favor them, you know, from time to time. But I just thought that, you know, I would be able to do some countering, you know, utilize my jab from the outside, and really pressure him in the way that I did. You know, some of the things that I wanted to do, I was able to do. But ultimately, I just really feel like, in retrospect, that I fell short on the number game. You know, a little bit of the defense due to the knockdown in the first round. He really did capitalize on just springing at me while I was moving backwards. You know, I could have utilized more head movement. I showed when I was juking and jiving, you know, I was confusing Pacquiao pretty well in there. I know I have the skills to be victorious in the ring. But yeah, obviously, 22 months out of the game, Jose Cito Lopez and then Manny Pacquiao. You know, I try to stay active, but, you know, maybe another fight in between would have helped.
We're going to take a couple.
Commend you, Keith, for putting up a valiant fight. You did very well for yourself, in spite of the outcome of it. There was a point in...
That was a good body shot, you know. It reminded me of the Luis Collazo. It was slightly near the solar plex. It was slightly under the rib. It probably caught me in a breathing moment. And, you know, I just wanted to recover from it. I knew he was going to put some pressure on me. I wanted to see if he would walk into anything. But, you know, he's very wise in there. You know, he takes his time. He's patient. You know, I really think that I could have pulled the fight closer to a draw without that body shot, because the later rounds were definitely starting to go my way. But, you know, there's many times in the sport of boxing where one fight changes the course of the outcome. So for me, he started with the knockout in the first and that body shot there later, and it was hard to convince the judges that I did enough.
Okay, this is be the last question for Keith. Right over here.
Okay, Keith, so after the fight, you talked about a blessing or a lesson, I believe, and you kind of just touched on it with your ring generalship and your wherewithal, how you're able to recover from those big shots. So where do you see, well, first of all, which one was it, a blessing or a lesson, this fight for you, and then where do you go from here?
Well, I said on the stage that it was a blessing and a lesson. It was a blessing to be here at the MGM Grand, to be forming on my first ever pay-per-view fight, to have such a tremendous fight, even without the outcome coming my way. I promised you guys that this would be one of the most exciting fights of the summer. My 2-year layoff, I truly missed the sport of boxing. You guys have no idea. And just me showing my grit, my wherewithal, and just really trying to make sure that I could put together some of the best fights. Of course, I wanted to win the fight. I fell short, but it was a blessing and a lesson because we got to do a little bit more. We got to get our numbers back up. I do know that I'm a true champion. Keith one-time Thurman has always been a true champion. I will be back at the top of the sport of boxing. And, you gotta go with the flow. You gotta take the punches as they come. And you get knocked down, you lift yourself back up. That's what champions do. So like I said, man, we're not going nowhere. We'll be back. And like I promised you guys, Keith one-time Thurman brings the best fights in the welterweight division, man. Fight me, baby. Fight me.